Brent Hendricks, good to see you. There's our good friend Nick Paul. I'm going to bring you up. Bud, hey, welcome to another episode of Behind the Breakthrough. We are with our good friend, Mr. Nick Paul of New Mexico, who's going to be joining us. Today, you guys are going to have the opportunity to hear from him. Chris Acosta, good to see you. I do apologize because we were actually supposed to go into Zoom, and we had some issues. That's totally my fault, and we will actually try to aim for a Zoom meetup for Behind the Breakthrough, possibly next time. That being said, we appreciate you guys being here. I do apologize for the confusion. And couple announcements, actually one announcement before we dive into our episode here with Nick Paul. We have our first close coaching call tonight. So this was previously the Storage Rebellion University, and that has transitioned into First Close, which is our newest rebranding to the university. Those who are in the program, we have a weekly group coaching call. Previously, it was at 4 p.m. We have switched based on our members' feedback. And tonight, our group coaching call will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, that call actually has transitioned to Zoom. And this is an opportunity for you guys to connect with one of our coaches, Mr. Shane Chapin, and bring all of your questions to the table. So no matter where you are in your storage journey or what you're working on, this is an awesome opportunity to get direct support to help you maintain that momentum and develop more clarity and confidence. And again, that's 6 p.m. We have transitioned to Zoom for those calls. And there's also going to be a breakout activity as well. So come prepared to that call with questions. Come prepared to engage and network with other members. So we're really excited about that. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. All of that being said, Nick Paul, how are you, bud?
Doing good, Chris. Appreciate the invite, man. Always good jumping on and chatting with you. And looks like there's a lot of other rock stars in the room that are jumping on here. So cool and cool to be a part of this, man. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you you jumping on. And really quick, I don't mean to I'm still here. I'm just going to plug in my computer. But, dude, I'm excited to have you. I know you and I have known each other for quite a while now. I think we first got connected through our Storage Rebellion Insiders. And I know you'll be joining us for that in Nashville this month already. September 25th, we'll be downtown Nashville. So looking forward to seeing you again soon. But what I'd love to do is I want to share your success with our members. I want to highlight you because I think a lot of what you've done is inspiring, and honestly, it's a lot of what you're doing, because I know you own local, and you're in New Mexico. A lot of folks try and do that, and I feel like you found a really good system for doing it, and you've had a bunch of success, and I'll let you talk all about it. But can you do me a quick favor and let's spend the first minute or so with a quick introduction. Tell us more about yourself, and then we can dive into the storage success and nuts and bolts.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So kind of give a 60-second rundown. Nick Paul, I live in Alamogordo, New Mexico, which is southern part of New Mexico. We're about 90 miles north of El Paso, Texas. Pretty much grew up here. Was born in Albuquerque, but grew up in Alamogordo. Graduated high school, swore that I would never move back here. Wanted to go to a big city, moved to the Los Angeles area, went to college out there. Had a blast doing it, but kind of over time realized that metropolis of LA was going to be a hard place to do real estate in, right? So went to college, got a degree in business finance. And as soon as I got done doing that, started working with a couple guys that ran a brokerage firm where they helped people buy and sell hotels in the western part of the U.S. So did that for about 8 years and just started to see the writing on the wall of like, hey, there's guys buying hotels, they're investing in them. That sounds cool. And so how do I get into real estate investment? And kind of went through the the traditional path that I think a lot of folks do, right? You get into the single family space of either wholesaling or fixing and flipping deals, and then start to hear more about commercial real estate. And so that's, you know, the path that I think many of us follow. And that's what I did myself. Started fixing and flipping some small multifamilies, single family homes, and then just realized that it was going to get to a point to where I was going to be really running a job or having a job and running a crew day in and day out, and started to look at other options. And multifamily was hot at the time, and there weren't a lot of opportunities, and stumbled upon storage. You know, I think I'd seen a video from the late great Mr. Mike Wagner, and I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. And kind of one thing led to the next, and ended up in storage. So that's kind of a quick rundown of from where I had been to where I am now. So
yeah, and how many deals do you currently own? Tell us a little bit about.
Yes. So we sold 2 of our facilities. We had 8 of them. We sold 2 of them. We're trying to do a 1031 to replace. So right now we currently own and operate 6 facilities. And, you know, it's taken me a year or 2 to kind of get over the mental game of, well, I need to own more storage, right? Like, I want to be able to say that I'm continually growing the business, and to do that I need to own more storage. And so over the last 2 years really was focused on the operations side of stuff, right? We've got some good deals, we bought them at really good prices, and there's still a lot of room to maximize what they churn out in terms of revenue. So not that we weren't looking for deals, it was just harder to come by them, especially over the last 12 months. And so it really made me lean more into let's make sure what we're currently owning and operating is running as efficiently and effectively as possible. Because if we can do that, we can continue to increase the cash flow that we get off of what we currently hold. And, you know, my original thought and dream is if I can build up a portfolio of 20 or 30 of these things in the state of New Mexico, I'll be doing great. And life happens, things change, your kind of goals change, right, to align with where you're at in life. And realize that, yeah, that'd be nice. And not that I still don't try to set lofty goals like that, but there's also something to be said for really spending the time, energy, and effort on what you do own, and really becoming an expert in the given market that you're in the market leader. So
I love that. I love that you kind of transition into increasing. It sounds like you were just transitioning and focusing on what you currently have and how you can maximize the value of that, which I think is a great strategy. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that very first deal. Maybe even some roadblocks that you had to overcome, and I'd be curious to hear more about not just the deal, but maybe some lessons that still serve you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. So the first deal that we bought, I was renting a storage unit. I was still at the time fixing and flipping homes, and I had got my contractor's license in the state of New Mexico, because to run a flipping business, I felt that having a contracting business that ran parallel with that, right, that served that flipping business was going to be a good idea. And so we had a storage unit where we kept just some miscellaneous equipment and materials and stuff, and they jacked our prices on us. And I was like, oh, I'm not paying that. I'm moving somewhere else. So contacted another local storage facility, met the owner there on site, and rented the unit, piece of paper, and just, I was like, man, this guy is really running things like old school. And so I just asked him, I was like, hey, would you ever entertain selling this place? And he's like, you know what? I think I would. I'd like to go fishing more. I'd like to go spend some more time on the golf course. The guy at that time was probably mid-70s. So it was just, good opportunity for him to exit and go do other things in life that he wanted to do. And so we had that conversation, started moving things forward, and ended up buying that place. And it was a blessing in disguise, right? Initially, my wife, when I drove her through the facility, it was 30,000 square feet, 240 units roughly. We were in contract and we ended up buying it for $800,000. And she said, "You're spending $800,000 on this? Like, are you crazy?" And at the time, it was nerve-wracking, right? Biggest purchase that we had made in terms of a business. And to think that, okay, well, you're going to have a good amount of money invested in it, and now you've got a good amount of debt on it. What if things don't go right? And all kinds of things that when you're buying that first deal that pop up and are just like, they're limiting beliefs and they're roadblocks that can stand in your way if you can't surround yourself with people that can help kind of walk you past those, potential mental hurdles. At the time, I wasn't part of the Storage Rebellion or another group that understood the storage space. So I had other people telling me, "Hey, yeah, I think it could be a good deal, but I don't know storage."
Yeah.
So we ended up biting the bullet and making a run at it and bought the place. And I would say, in terms of roadblocks, I think the biggest thing that was a roadblock for me on that first deal was not having the confidence that we could successfully run and operate this thing. There was a lot of, "Well, I don't know, I've never done this before. How do you run a storage unit?" And that was, I think it lessened my enjoyment of the process of actually buying it. There was a lot more stress involved than probably needed to be. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of those, whisperings that we hear and that we tell ourselves that, "Oh, well, you can't do this, or you can't do that," limiting beliefs again, that just sometimes have to be ignored. And, if you've got a group of people that can help you discount those, or just help you understand that they're not really what you think they are, I mean, that's a huge help and huge step in the right direction. But yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I could get off into other things that were potential issues, but I mean, the deal ended up turning out to be extremely good. We bought it. The guy was doing $90,000 a year in revenue. Revenues currently are up around, I want to say, $230,000 a year. But what the place is bringing in, there's not a whole lot of overhead and expenses that go into that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, hindsight being 2020, is one of the best deals that we've bought thus far.
Yeah. At what point through that deal did you start to feel a little bit better about your purchase, or maybe even, because like you said, like going into your first deal, I think that's very common. I experienced that. Many people do, as far as like, am I doing the right thing here? Am I missing something? And we kind of get in our own way. Like, at what point through the process after closing did you realize, like, yeah, we did a good thing here. This is exciting. You started to gain more confidence.
I think it was when I had spent a little more time kind of researching the storage space, right? I had started jumping on the Facebook page that Mike had originally set up for the Rebellion, was where all the action and activity was happening at that point in time, and started to latch on to, okay, everybody was talking about the local market, the 1, 3, 5 mile radius. Well, where this facility is located, my hometown in Alamogordo, the market is, could be 10 or 15 mile radius. It really depended on availability. But so when people were talking about the market, I started looking at the local market. Was, as we got towards the end of due diligence, thankfully I ended up doing the calling to check and see what everybody else is renting units for. But that I didn't know that at first. Like, hey, I knew that there were storage facilities and generally knew what the people on the same road that had facilities were charging, but I didn't think about the market as a whole. So as I dug into that, I just, was able to pull the curtain back to realize that there was a big opportunity. Everybody was full. Everybody was a mom and pop operator. Nobody was sophisticated in the sense that they were running websites where people could actually rent online. It was still early enough for these tertiary markets that people hadn't jumped on the boat with easy storage solutions or some of those more mom and pop, software programs. And so as I started to realize that, I was like, man, if we can answer the phone and we can make it easy for people to find us online, we're going to be the market leader. And that ended up proving itself correct, right? Like
Yeah.
mission statement is we want to provide the best possible customer service in the markets that we own and operate in. And we hold true to that today. And I believe that if you answer the phone and you've got a friendly voice behind it, people are going to rent from you because they like hearing and like having somebody friendly, but they can actually contact you. I
Sure.
mean, like a lot of folks that own in those smaller markets, the competition isn't stiff or tough. It's gotten more so these days, but yeah, it was that market research, right? To find out
Yep.
what's the competition doing, where's the opportunity. And if
Mhm.
we could show up, if we could get Google reviews, start to populate higher in a Google search and in the Google Map pack, and we actually answered the phone, then we were going to just crush it, and we were going to be able
Yeah.
to take everybody else's business because they weren't answering the phone or they weren't
Sure.
managing their online presence. So
That's awesome, dude. I gotta commend you too, because you kind of you like took the bull by the horns when it comes to storage, and you just stepped right into it. You made a big investment, and you pushed through limiting beliefs and self-doubt. When a lot of people use those as a reason not to get started, you just continue to push forward, and it's a big reason why you are where you are today. And I'd love to hear, and I saw Terry put a question in, which is actually one I was planning on getting to. But before we do, I want to kind of touch on the fact that you have built quite a nice portfolio local to you. Can you talk more to that and kind of give us maybe some insight on if somebody is looking to own a portfolio close to home, what are some steps that they can take that you believe would help them be most successful in doing that?
yeah, so where I saw the opportunity, especially looking at New Mexico, right? We're a big landmass state. There's a lot of area and there's a lot of smaller markets, and there wasn't a whole lot of interest from folks back east or on the West Coast where bigger money, flowing into New Mexico. And so those smaller markets were still the mom and pop folks that just said, hey, I needed a side hustle, or they wanted some extra cash and they had some land and they started putting these things up. But I realized real quick after we bought that first one that, hey, I can really start to cut expenses if we can gain more square footage in the same market. And so that's what I really wanted to focus on, was knowing that if we buy a deal in a market, I want to make sure that I go hard after the other competitors that we're up against in that market to see if I can acquire one, two, three of them or more to give us some scale, because that's where the power comes, right? I don't have to, if I own 4 storage facilities in different cities all across New Mexico or all across the country, well, now I've got 4 different boots on the ground. I've got a lot of, if you're using a call center, I've got, call center for each of those different places. I saw the value in, if we can consolidate, we can get greater square footage, we can cut down on our labor costs, number one, and who that person is that's our maintenance manager for those facilities. But we can also start to in-house a lot of the things that you have to outsource initially, right? If you own 1 or 2 facilities, it's hard to justify hiring somebody to answer phones and do, marketing and things like that. And so that was my goal, is let's at least scale up as quickly as we can initially to where we can bring those people in-house instead of me having to pay somebody else. Because a call center is only answering your calls, right? They're going to answer your calls, maybe return missed calls, maybe help give you some reporting on these are people that are, going to auction, but they can't do marketing. You can't train them to do marketing. Well, if I've got somebody in-house that I can train to answer the phones and do the customer service side of it, maybe they've got a knack for marketing too, and now they can manage my Google business page. They're already on the phone with them trying to get reviews. Well, let's start making, fold into the mix, updating our Google business pages regularly with different information so that Google sees that as, hey, these people are actively engaging day in and day out with potential customers, or, with folks that are searching for the product that we're looking to serve over to them. And that's where most of it came in. We've got, for the most part, everything in-house, and it's not split across a ton of people, right? I've got 3 other people and then 2 maintenance guys right now, maintenance managers that work for me. So it's a small team, but we've got a lot of all of the areas that we need to service in terms of the back end operations are covered, and we do it
Yeah.
efficiently and effectively. And so I think there's a
Y-
ton of value in that, and that's why I kind of focused on just the being
Yeah.
hyper local, right? So
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And it's a lot of what you said. It's creating simplicity within the business. And there's a great book. I think it's Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about this. When it comes to scaling your business, you need to create as much simplicity as possible in order to scale. A lot of what you're saying kind of reminds me of that, right? Like you're just, instead of having yourself kind of tapped out in all of these different locations and markets, multiple boots on the grounds, marketing teams, etc., you kind of just have one system. And I know it's worked really well for you as far as like getting these leads that you have had and turned into deals in your market. Like, what was your approach for that? Were you sending out letters, cold calling? Was it just a knock on the door?
yeah, I mean, initially it was a combination of both, right? The letters and then cold calling coming from the brokerage world and hospitality assets.
Yeah.
The company that I worked for trained us on, hey, cold calls are where the action and the magic happen because you can start to connect with folks. And so initially I hated doing that when I was doing the brokerage side of stuff, and come to like it, right? I got to build relationships with people, and that was fun and cool to me because
Yeah.
I got to meet a lot of different folks. And so our first deals were all found through cold calls. Then we started folding in letters that were going out to folks. And then as we connected and heard back from those people or had a follow-up call to just make direct contact with the owner, it started to become more personal, the communication that they were getting. And so we switched from having mass printed letters that were going out to now that select group of people that we know the owner, we've communicated with them over the phone, now they get a handwritten letter.
Sure.
It's just super short. I mean, I've got these that just sit on my desk, and not that I'm sending them out every day, but it literally just, I'll pick it up from time to time and be like, hey, I wonder how Bob's doing. Hey, Bob, hope you and your wife are doing well. Just wanted to reach out and say hi. Then I give it to one of the girls that works in my office. They address it to them, mail it, get it out. But it's a personal note, right? We update our CRM with that information. But yeah, cold calls was the way we found our first deals. I just felt that it was, from my standpoint at the time, I was not dealing with a ton of facilities. New Mexico is pretty limited on the number of facilities. And so I was like, I'm just going to pick up the phone and start calling. And at the time too, I will say that was back in 2018, 2019. There wasn't as much fierce competition as there had been over, the last 5-6 years since we've got into it. And so people weren't flooded with the letters or the postcards or the phone calls from everybody's VA that's out there. And so it was a little easier to connect, and people didn't really, honestly, forgive my language, didn't give 2 shits about New Mexico. And so I saw opportunity in that. As I talked to people, they're like, oh yeah, you're the first person that's called me in 5 years to ask if I wanted to sell. So I was like, okay, well, people aren't stepping into this market, so let's focus here in our backyard first.
Dude, I love that. And I want to highlight something so important on what you said here as far as like the relationship aspects of it. When it comes to growing your business and storage specifically, relationships are always going to win. And what you mentioned was I was picking up the phone and I'm sending them a postcard, and you're keeping it personal. I'm checking in. You learned about that individual and you're keeping in touch with them. And I think especially now, you had mentioned it's getting way more competitive. And a lot of what's we're seeing today and what a lot of people are doing is just getting as many facilities on a list as they can and just spreading out to as many of those folks as they can. And when they hear no, we're not interested in selling, go on to the next one. And they keep pumping. And you're kind of focusing on a small, I guess what you're doing is you're kind of focusing on a smaller group, and you're building on the relationships within that smaller group, which is paying off big dividends. And so I think it's a great approach. And I think especially that approach never goes out of style. It becomes only more beneficial when it becomes very competitive as it is right now, because few people are kind of focused on the approach that you're doing. So I love that. I'm also curious, and I want to go to, and this is actually Terry asked this as well. He mentioned, would love to hear some of the operational efficiencies that you're focusing on with your current portfolio that you mentioned earlier on the call and increasing the value of them. Can you share a little bit more about what it is you're doing and maybe shine some light on that?
Yeah, it kind of just goes back to really having those operations in-house, right? Like we could dive deep onto this of have an hour or two long conversation about the different operational efficiencies. But I think at the high level, at the end of the day, having those operations in-house allows us to operate and pivot and react more quickly than if we didn't. And so that's where the huge efficiencies come, is that I can yell out my door to one of the other girls that works in the office and be like, hey, rate check these folks, and let's figure out where they're at, and then have the other lady that works with us compare it to existing customers. Or, I mean, it's just when you've got your team in your office, I'm not necessarily having to wait on somebody to reply to an email, to a Slack message, to a text message. We're all real time, and it allows us to be more effective about how tasks get done, right? We can cut down the amount of time it takes for back and forth to coordinate some of those things. And I think that that's where a lot of the efficiency lies, is not that it always has to be, it's my business model that I want these folks working in the same office as because I like the fluidity of it. I like the continuity. I like the team aspect that we're able to build. I like that if there's an issue, that it's easy for them to get an answer. They can come to somebody else and figure out, hey, how do we handle this? Or what do you think? This is what I came up with. And it just streamlines a lot of things. And they get to hear the conversations that I'm having. And so when they're doing marketing outreach, or they're following up with owners that I've connected with in the past, they've heard me talking to other people, and now they really know all aspects of the business. They don't just know kind of what their core duties are, right? They get to hear everything that's going on. So it's kind of a short and sweet answer for that.
Yeah, so it sounds like team efficiencies, which is then helping you continue adding value to the different areas of your business as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious. I only have a few more questions for you. I appreciate your time and from being here for today and sharing all this value with our members. I'm curious to hear more about because I know you're not just successful in self-storage. There's other business avenues that you're also in and you're doing well at. Can you shed a little light on maybe some different habits, routines, or different strategies, mindset hacks, whatever it may be, that works really well for you, or maybe that you think is essential for anybody who's looking to grow their business and be successful?
Absolutely. So I would say as I've gotten older, I've started to, really realize the value of my health, right? And so really making that a priority. So, I mean, for me personally, like I wake up, and not that I'm always an early riser. Some days I get up at 6, some days I get up at 7, but first thing that I'm doing is either going for a brisk walk, or I'm going out and I'm running several miles and I'm getting the juices flowing, getting some physical activity in, because I think that really gives me, number one, some time to kind of reflect on, hey, what does the day hold? Not just for business, but for life as well, right? Because if things aren't good in your life, then they're not likely going to be good in your business, or at least not for the long term. So doing that physical activity. And the other thing that I think really makes a difference for people who are successful is you can work 100 hours a week and you can be successful, but that isn't sustainable long term. In the storage business, it goes back to that relationship stuff. And I think that that's true for any business, right? Like I've really come to enjoy meeting new people and genuinely being interested in their story. And while that might not equate to a deal today, It might equate to somebody I can pick up the phone and call because I need a reference or a contact for some vendor or supplier, or
Sure.
knows they stumble across somebody else that owns storage. I mean, that relationship aspect and that network that you build and that you do it in a genuine way really can start
Hmm.
to set you apart. The people that I've been able to
Absolutely.
meet just, in the last 5, 10 years, because I've been more conscious about, hey, having a genuine interest in folks and finding joy in that has made a huge difference. I know people in all kinds of different businesses that you can call and they can act as a mentor to you. They can provide valuable feedback and insight to help you avoid, mistakes or pitfalls, or they can just listen and not say a word. I mean, but that being genuine really, to me, at the end of the day, for my business model, makes all the difference in the world. Because if we can
Hmm.
convey that to the folks that we're trying to do business with, the likelihood of succeeding in closing a deal is going to be greater. The likelihood of sourcing and finding the next opportunity, whether it's in storage or otherwise, is going to be greater. And at the end of the day, it just makes me feel good as a human being,
Yeah.
knowing that, you take interest in other folks, because we're in a world these days that's really all about self. And so when you
Yep.
come across somebody that's not, it's kind of stands up. So.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, dude. I appreciate that. One last question that I have for you, because I know you and I have known each other for a while, and you started off when you did get involved in the Storage Rebellion. I remember you started off in the university, which is now our First Close program. You're in the Insiders, and you've been within this community for quite a while. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what were some of the biggest things that the Storage Rebellion helped you when it comes to your storage business. How did the Storage Rebellion help you? And maybe just some encouragement for other people who they're on this call today, they're new to the rebellion, they're looking to grow their storage business. Maybe some pieces of advice you would give them to get the most out of this.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that relationship aspect, right? I didn't come to this call today thinking that, hey, relationships is going to be kind of the overarching theme for everything. But getting involved in the Storage Rebellion, number one, opened relationships that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But it also opened the door to people that were in the business, and for me to build relationships with people that were in the business and to learn from them and kick ideas around with them, and chat. Just this storage business that then evolved into life, because we became friends. And so I think the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing was having a network where people were doing this day to day. Last year, I don't want to say that I willingly stepped away, but when I was doing the run for the Senate stuff, I just didn't feel that I have the time to be able to invest in actually being a part of the rebellion. And I missed it, man, because there was the lack of people that were in storage and that were having monthly or weekly calls with each other about, hey, how's your business going? I'm running into this issue. How did you handle it? And so it really opened my eyes again to just that value of being a part of a group that has the resources right there that are ready for you to be able to utilize at the moment that
Mm-hmm.
you want, right? You get out what you put in. And so for folks that are new, is, soak it up. I've had a number of people that have joined the First Close, as it's called now, or the Insiders that I've spoke with, because part of the challenge when they come in is, hey, reach out to some of the folks that have been around here for a year or 2 or 3 or 5, and just see if you can set up a call with them, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's valuable, because where else, if you're not a part of a group, can you be able to have that access, right? You'd have to go banging on a lot of doors to try and get in touch directly with people that are actively in the business that you're seeking to be in or that you are in. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, that's the biggest selling feature. And there's good content, I mean, at the end of the day, I like it because it's my business. My core business is storage. I want to continue to focus on that. And I need a group where, for the most part, that's the core business of the majority of the people that are there. Or if not, that the group as the whole is setting the expectation that, hey, this is primarily storage, right? We'll talk about life and other things, but it's people that are in the storage space. So
I love it, dude. Man, I so appreciate you being here and also being a part of the rebellion. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for our friendship we've been able to form over the years. And you've always been one of those members within the rebellion. Which I so appreciate about you is that you're always willing to add value and you're willing to support other folks. And so I thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to connecting. Well, we got like 23 days. We're going to be in Nashville for our Insiders event. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Yeah, likewise. Nash Vegas is going to be fun. It's going to be looking forward to it. Got a lot of good people coming in and sharing a lot of great information and getting to connect with everybody. I think that's always one of the highlights for me, right? We get to see each other virtually on these things or kind of communicate through the network or the platform or via phone calls between one another. But when you get everybody in the room, it's just it builds friendships, and it's always cool to connect. It's like a family reunion. So
it's different. It's definitely different when you're in the room. But I'm looking forward to it, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you again for your time. And we'll post the replay to this call in the network in just a little bit for anybody who wants to dive back into all of the golden nuggets that Nick shared with us. But appreciate you, brother. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll connect soon.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks, guys.